But if you're still doing better than I am, that's still amazing. Okay, any thoughts, any gratitudes? Victories?
I have gratitude. So I was listening to Tony Robbins this morning, and he's talking about giving his last $17 that he had in his wallet to a kid at this Mexican restaurant. You know the story. And last $17 in his pocket, he gives it to a kid, and he has this incredible reaction, and he walks out of there just feeling like $1 million and doesn't have a feeling of scarcity. And I'm just grateful for the opportunities or the light that some people shed on people who need help, so that we have opportunities to help them. Because it's really hard to keep track of people that need help. But when somebody sheds light on that, then people like you and I can help.
I love that. It's going to be kind of a good segue to what we're going to talk about this morning.
You know, I got a couple real deep gratitudes. One is Ruth, the other one's Matt Salter, and the stuff that they've done for me over the last month or so. Matt, getting people in the pit, calling and doing great things, and just being so enthusiastic with this morning meeting and leading people really, really touches me. Ruby, being able to step up and really carry the torch of Union Park and really staying in the lane when sometimes things seemed pretty dark and lonely and on their own, and she carried that like a champion and led you guys, and I want to thank you guys for that. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to jump right in where, if you know me well enough, the thought process of how I think is probably not going to be a shock, where I might think more with my mind than maybe with my heart, right?
What? Come on.
What?
Come on. You?
You know, I don't know. And I'm chuckling about this because I just swallowed the mint that Rick just gave me. Hold on a second. That's about choked.
Rob, you have a heart?
Oh, ouch. Wow. Okay.
We love you, man.
With that transition, well, I think a lot about stuff. There's no question about it. I'm thinking a lot about it. And one of the things I started thinking about is acting with your mind versus your heart. Now, of course, when I just making that thought, I have to think, well, it's good to do it this way at this time. It's also good to do it this way at this time, right? So I have to analyze even the thought process of thinking about your heart versus your mind. So I'm not stating that only go one direction, use both. Now, that being said, where do you think passion comes from? More, heart or your mind?
Heart.
Okay, I would agree with that. Your passion is going to come more from if you're leading with your heart than when you're leading with your mind. We're in sales, right?
Yeah. Right.
Now, there are times when logic is great. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. But in sales, would you say that it makes more sense to have passion?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're passionate about what you're saying, you can have all the logic in mind, but if you are not excited about what is being done, it's not going to work very well when you're trying to sell that idea to somebody else. And so it requires passion. I was laughing at the beginning just watching Ruby. And I'm sitting back over here just watching her.
It was fun.
Okay, if you guys are... She's trying to she's going too fast at this point. I'm like, okay, you got to dial it back a little bit. But it didn't matter, is the fact that she's all passionate about what she's doing. She can't get the words down herself because she's speaking so fast, but she's so passionate about what she's doing, it's entertaining to watch. But I guarantee you, the comments that Rick is making towards Ruby isn't because of logically what she's been doing. It's because of the passion that she is bringing to the table. And I would echo that everyone here probably feels that. So, let's talk about passion. Where is that passion, and what is it that brings it to you? We often focus many times thinking, you know what, what's the old phrase of, if I have, then I'll do, then I'll become, versus become, do, and have, and kind of the cycle of that. Well, you know what? If I had $1 million, or once I have $1 million, then I'm going to act as if I have $1 million, and then I'm going to help somebody with that $1 million, right? It's once we have that whatever it is we're looking for, once we have it, then we'll start acting as if that person requires who has that. The example that Matt gave, where Tony Robbins is giving his last $17, and having that experience caused him to act as if he was a millionaire. Isn't that the right approach, where that gives your passion? Many times we have to act as if we are in that spot. We have to act as if we are already that individual in order for our actions to become that individual. And if we follow that approach, we will get there. I'll use real quick.
Yeah, I don't want to stop you. Keep going.
I'll use
When you're done.
Here. I'm gonna lead out right now with the heart. Right? Okay. I'm gonna transition out of this. I'm gonna put myself on in a vulnerable state. Okay. So individually, you guys. It won't that way. That's not gonna happen. Okay, for you maybe. I'm like, I don't think I'll get that emotional. But everyone may be in separate circumstances. Okay. Well, there's few. In fact, probably Kenzie might be the one that may know more about this than anything. Okay. And I'll even ask questions. I'll put myself on the spot by asking Kenzie some questions. Kenzie, you've known me for how many years?
Whole life.
Your entire life.
Wow.
Okay. During that period of time, have you seen me have ups and downs?
Yeah.
Okay. Emotionally, ups and downs.
Right.
Okay. What do you think was the major cause of those ups and downs? She has no idea about this, and I have no idea what she's going to say either. So let's just see if it puts somebody on the spot.
I would say maybe life not looking the way you were expecting it.
Okay. Go into a little more depth.
Maybe just not being prepared for like changes in what you were thinking, how life should be versus how it was, and then just being prepared to handle that.
Okay. So she may have been a little bit too young to understand earlier on versus more later. But bottom line is this: relationships. Okay. If I say that to you, what would you now say from what you observe now versus what maybe in the past?
Yeah, I would say some of the past relationships you've been in, they weren't working out. I mean, and they were just like, it was sad to watch. Not on your part, but on the other person's part.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is, in my past, I mean, like ups and downs on how I felt, how I was going. I mean, had a failed marriage, had people that were dating, things where there was excitement, things would go up and down, and they weren't working the way that they were working. And looking back on it, I was uncertain of really what I wanted. So if I was unclear, maybe this is the mental side now. If I was unclear kind of what I wanted, it's also unclear who I needed to be to find what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And that actually just came. I didn't think about that. Actually, just kind of made sense to me. But the reason why it made sense is after marriage failed, There was a 10, 11 year period of being single. But I wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to be married. That is what I wanted. And my passions kind of directed that, even though my actions may not have been. And this is kind of where I'm going down the part, is sometimes you got to act the part. And what was happening, I knew I wanted this. Whatever this was, I wanted this. I knew that. However, I was not the person that I needed to be to get this. And that whether because of frustration, whether because of not ready, but a lot of excuses. I got every excuse in the book that I could come up with why I was not this.
How do you find that?
A lot of trial and error. So I can tell you what really was the end game. I gave every excuse in the book. You know what? I don't need this, so I'm going to do this in order to obtain this. However, I thought you had to do it this way. That didn't work. Thought you had to do it this way. Didn't work. Had to do this. I came up with every example of what I needed it to be. In reality, even though I knew that I really knew what it needed to be. And it wasn't until I finally let go and just said, you know what? I'm going to let it happen, but I'm going to be that person that I want to find. And so if I become that person who I wanted to find, therefore that person's going to be looking for me too. Does that kind of make sense?
Perfect sense.
And I stopped worrying about it. I just said, you know what? All I know is this. All those other approaches, and believe it or not, this does tie into work. I'll get there. It does tie into that. All these other approaches that I thought I needed to be or could be to obtain what I wanted didn't work. It didn't work. It wasn't my, if you want to say, authentic self. It wasn't me. And it wasn't until I let go of all of that and just started to become the person that, in essence, I needed to be for them to want me. And sure enough, it happened. You know, the best thing in my life happened 7 years ago, whatever. It's been a lot longer than that, but the what?
You better know exactly when that
I actually, hey, believe it or not, I know the date better. I know the date better than she does. So she's the one who forgets. I don't have to worry about that. I just don't do I don't do the math very well, right? So no, we're approaching. It'll be 7 years this year. So that has changed my life. I mean, yeah, I had a beautiful daughter for the first marriage. I have 2 amazing sons right now. But regardless, is that individual that I was able to find has opened up a different individual within myself. It's now allowed me to become more than I ever was before. But I know this. Had I met this person, my wife, had I met her a year earlier, I don't think we'd be together. Not because of her, because I wasn't the person that she would have been attracted to a year earlier. So where I'm going with this, I mean, I started off heart, mind, and the passion that leads. Your passion is going to be critical in what you're selling. Now, was I selling her on me? No question about it. But it was the way I went about it. Sounds so bad. I look back on it now. It just like it's a miracle that it came together. But prior to her, how many of you, if you haven't, you'll get there. You've been in a listing presentation, and you feel prepared. You feel like you get the right answers, but you're overselling. there's times where you just needed to shut up
Oh, yeah.
and let them listen to the signals. Listen and watch what is being done, and you would respond a totally different way. And you walk out of there, you think, that was so bad. And there's no chance they're calling me. There's no chance they're going to list with me. We've been there. We've had those listing presentations. Or you walk out, you're thinking, yeah, I'm the one. They're listing with me, and all of a sudden there's another sign in the yard. What the heck just happened? We are so clueless as to where we need to be because we're wrapped up into our own thoughts and what we think it is. Then all of a sudden we take a different approach. Almost like you know what? I don't care if I get the listing or not. I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to give my presentation. And if my presentation is what they need to hear, then it's going to be a win-win. They're going to benefit from having me represent them. And of course, I'm also going to benefit from not only getting to know someone and help someone more, and maybe even have turn out to be a long-term relationship and future business, whatever happens from it. But I don't care about the result if y'all want great results. But I don't care about the result if you go in and give your presentation. And you lead out with your heart. You lead out with what you know. You'll overcome that. With my wife, went out, I didn't care if we succeeded or not. I just said, we went out and I wasn't a jerk. I'm not trying to say this. But I went out and I was no longer worried about what would happen. And I was in the moment. I was present. And it was the first person, to this day, is the only person that I truly became myself with. And I was that person from the very beginning. Versus in past, I could say from my previous wife to other long-term girlfriends, I still never was myself. Completely. I'm not saying I wasn't a person, but my point is I let go. I led more with my heart and let those experiences transcend and the passion take over, not just the mind. That kind of makes sense a little bit.
Just a question about that. So was that a decision and it was like an overnight change, or did it happen?
I think it was frustration.
Yeah.
It was. I really do. I was so frustrated with all these other approaches of how it happened. I truly didn't care. I truly didn't. Not because did I still want to find something? Yes. Did I want to? I wasn't just going out to check it off the list. No. I'm going out, enjoy, but I said, clearly, this way wasn't working. I had nothing else to lose to try something different, right? It wasn't working. So that's really what I wish I had a better answer than that, but I truly think it was the fact of I didn't care. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Here's where passion for me comes in, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's where the clear mental picture becomes defined in your mind of what you intended to become. Is that right?
Not who I became. I guess the best answer was this. It's not that I think that I knew what I wanted to become. I knew what I wanted.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, but for me the approach was different. I knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I just knew that, well, if I want this, here's my mind going back into logically, if I want this, then that person probably will want something similar or better. They're probably not wanting to go backwards. They're not wanting something less. So if I want this, I at least got to be that myself. And so then I started looking at it as, okay, well, what do I need to do to get there? I mean, it might be the same, but I looked at it from the outside versus in.
You were clearly looking at two different people, what you were being and what you wanted to become. Is that not true?
Yes. Who I was at the time,
Correct.
Which is exactly what we're talking about. Are we, when we're thinking about, well, I need to make $500,000, I need to make $1 million. Okay, well, are you the person right now that is worth earning $500,000, $1 million bucks? If the answer is yes, and you just don't have the money there, it'll come. It will be there. But if a person who makes $500,000 or $1 million does X, Y, and Z, and you're in a different language, you don't even have X, Y, and Z on your notepad, you are not going to get there. And I'm going to be the first to tell you, if it's going to take you 10 years to figure that out, you're not going to get there. So whoever you need to be to make whatever's important, and this is where I'm going with it. It's not the fact of just saying, now I've made X million or X dollars, I'm somebody now. That is not the message. But the key thing is this. Studies have shown if you double your income, the thing is, oh, well, then I'm going to double my happiness. Not even close. You can have all the money in the world and be, hello, my heavens, many people have done in the past. The wealthiest people in the world commit suicide because they're not happy. And then you've got people that are extreme poverty that have all the joy in the world. Happiness comes from here. And it goes back right to what Matt led off with. When Tony Robbins gave $17, his own last $17, he felt like $1 million bucks. Everything was, you can spend $5 the right way versus $10,000 the wrong way and be much happier in doing so.
My experience in finding my wife was somewhat similar, and it comes down to what you start off with, which is passion. When I started being passionate about winning despite obstacles, I got to speak at Summit, I got to speak at my church, I got to speak lots of places. And because I was passionate and I was being myself, instead of only being asked out by an awesome woman twice my whole life, in 1 year I got asked out 4 times. And those didn't go anywhere, but because I'd become passionate, when I decided to ask my wife out, she was ready to say yes, to go on a date. And so it's like you said, it all comes down to passion.
You're going to sell far more ever in your life with the passion that you convey behind it than the logic. The investors out there, they don't care about, it's about the numbers. Okay, how many of you guys that is your book of business, is your investors. There's some business, but that's not your book of business. It's not out there. You're going to make your money from the regular, average person who's looking to buy and sell, and they're buying on emotion.
But even the investor has to be passionate about the numbers they're going to receive.
Well,
right?
I would disagree with that. Other than the fact of, you tell me I'm going to get 50%, of course I'm going to be excited about that. But if they have in their book, if they have in their portfolio, if I make 10%, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. I found the 10%. I'm buying it. It's all logic.
Yeah.
But sure, you're telling me I'm going to get 20%. Great. They're going to be happy about that. They would have still bought at 10, whatever their number is.
But they're still passionate about that number.
Passionate about the money.
Absolutely.
They're passionate.
Process.
I'm just telling you,
No,
they're excited about it.
You're
They
talking to the analytical.
exactly. I'm telling you, if the number is there, they're going to pull the trigger if they're the investor. But the average buyer, they're buying and selling off of emotion. And if you want to get in the way of that transaction, it's your passion, your enthusiasm, your love for what you do, your ability to help them change their life is what's going to get you in the way of that transaction and make you the money that you need to make. And when you make the money, again, it's not because you became the millionaire. It's because who you become through the process of getting there. Because when the heart is going to lead you down the right path. The mind can lead you down the right path. It's going to be I get that. I'm not trying to one without the other. But I think you'll make more money with your leading with your heart. So a couple of questions.
Just an echo to what Matt is saying. I think oftentimes, right, if we look at it from the perspective of what you're talking about, who you have to become, and really not being able to attract what it is that you want in your life until you are that person yourself. And I'm a firm believer in that. I've watched my journey as well in the last 8 years, right? And one of the things that I often will say is, having now gone to Tony Robbins, if you guys haven't gone, it's unbelievable to me that people don't come back and actually use those things in their sales processes. Because two people will act differently, right?
Sure.
I work towards pleasure. A lot of people work towards pain. So it's usually that pain versus pleasure, right? And so you have to really dial in on your client and see what is it that they work towards. Is it that they're working away from pleasure or pain, or are they working towards pleasure? And some people are different. We're not all going to work away from pain, right? In fact, for me, I can be in the worst situations possible, and until I have enough pleasure, I'm not going to move forward. And so one of those, or enough reason to leap forward, right? There's no reason for me to get into that pleasure. So I could take pain all day. So I think it just depends on you as a person, but it also depends on your client. Some of them are going to work towards pain, and some of them are going to work towards pleasure. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of look at.
They're both great motivators.
The 6 needs, you'll see that too. They're going to work towards certainty, uncertainty, variety, love and connection. Right? Everybody works towards different things.
Yeah.
So.
Ken's, did you have a question?
Yeah, I thought you brought up a really good point of passion, and I think even someone who's not where they want to be, they're still living with passion in some other area of their life. Meaning,
absolutely.
Like, for example, when one of my best memories is us literally playing Guitar Hero every single night. And so Rob and I would just play Guitar Hero every single night when I was younger. And then watching you shift to where, if you were passionate about Guitar Hero, and then that passion really shifted to finding and becoming the person you wanted to be, to find that relationship. And I still remember the first time we met Joanna, which is Rob's wife now, but I was like very impressed. I was like, wow, she's hot. She's, it was really.
How do you do this?
We were so excited.
Hey, when it's true, it's true. Truth is truth, right? You got to admit.
She's awesome. She's so
That's
awesome.
awesome.
But it was just really cool to watch how it was so different from your other experiences, and it was all because of what you chose to become. And I was just listening to this impact theory the other day where the man being interviewed said a really profound statement where some guy really mentored him from a young age and took him aside and said, are you interested in achieving all these amazing goals, or are you committed to them? And I think it's such a good way to really gauge,
Love that. That's awesome.
What you're wanting to become, is that really what you're acting passionate about right now? If you're not, you need to fix that so it's in line.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, logic still has to exist because I'm very
Of course.
passionate about chocolate cake. And the fact is that my logic says don't eat
Don't
so
eat.
much, right?
Right.
So I think in anything we do, there's a balancing act between logic and the heart, correct?
That's why I said at the beginning, just because I'm going to emphasize on one thing here doesn't mean the other one is not important.
Because one of
Not-
the great things about our company is the fact that you are a very analytical, logical individual and exist in a position that I actually sell passionately to any recruit that's looking at this company. And it's easy for me to do because it's a protection portion that's a value statement for who we are and what we do. And I can speak very powerfully about it because I know the outcome. And we appreciate that, so don't change.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just think you and John should write a book, How to Find a Beautiful Wife, that's involved.
There you
Well-
go. That is good.
Okay, we'll tell you when it's on the bestseller list, right?
I just wanted to add also, I think when you're grateful for what you have, you actually create more passion for
Without a
yourself for what
question,
you want.
without a doubt.
And
Gratitude leads everything.
Honestly, everyone has a lot of pain in their life, but if they're grateful for what they have now and living in this moment
said.
and moving forward, you become even more passionate about what can come.
Without a doubt. And that's really kind of what this sums up.
Yeah.
We'll just leave with this as we're out of time. But yeah, of course, gratitude is going to lead everything that you have. The person that, remember, what is it that you want? Not what your neighbor has, because what you want can be completely different than what your neighbor has. And the things that you want, do you know the reasons why you're trying to get it? Then everything is within your grasp. If you truly want it, figure out why you want it, and then act, become the person that you need in order to get it. And when you do that and you become your real self, I guess the word is authentic. When you become authentic, people recognize it, they respond to it, they trust it, and that's what is, I believe, is going to get you to that next level. It really becomes infectious when you become that person. So, okay, thanks for your comments. Let's go ahead and roll it
I'll
down.
slow it down.
Yes, who's going to lead us out here?
I succeed because I have done my goals.